Today we're diving into a really fascinating idea, one that could totally change how you think about photography. It suggests that making a great photograph isn't really a creative choice, but a profound event that you get to be a part of. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so let me start by asking you a question, one you've probably never really stopped to consider. When you use your camera, do you take a photograph? I mean, it's a super common phrase, right? We all say it. But what if that one little word, take, is completely missing the point?
The source material we're looking at today kicks off with this amazing line. It's not here to just explain something, it's here to completely dismantle a basic assumption that pretty much all of us have about photography.
So our first step here is to look at the language we use. That phrase, taking a photo. It's not just an innocent saying. It actually points to a really deep-seated bias we have. This mindset that sees the world as something to be acquired, something to be controlled, and ultimately possessed. And here it is, the core argument. The word take implies that you're the one doing all the work, and the world is just this passive object waiting for you. It suggests ownership, extraction, almost like you're harvesting a resource. But this perspective says, nope, that is a huge misunderstanding of what's actually going on.
This chart just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got the language of conquest. That's our default mode, right? Taking, acquiring, owning. But then look at the other side. It's a completely different way of being, a language of alignment, based on waiting, observing, receiving, and witnessing. It's a massive shift from trying to dominate the world to participating with it.
Now, this whole new way of thinking is built on a really simple truth. The world is anything but passive. In fact, the source material calls it riotously active. It's this constant, chaotic dance of forces that started long, long before we ever showed up with a camera.
Just think about it for a second. The light, the photons, they've been traveling across the universe, bouncing off this exact rock, filtering through the atmosphere and the mist for who knows how long. The scene is an event that's already happening. You didn't start anything, you just kind of stumbled into the middle of it.
I love this phrasing. A photograph isn't a thing you create out of thin air. It's just a tiny sample, a thin slice, of this continuous, super dynamic process, a record of a negotiation between light and matter that has been going on forever. So if you're not there to take something, then what in the world are you doing? Well, this is where the idea of a ritual comes in. True photography, as it's described here, is a ritual of decreasing your own interference. It's about getting yourself out of the way.
And this ritual has steps. First, you show up and your mind is just noisy. It's full of ambition, you have ideas, you're trying to find something impressive. But if you can just wait, that compulsion to get the shot starts to fade. Then something really crucial happens. Your sense of being a separate observer starts to dissolve. You reach a kind of threshold.
This is that critical shift. The you that's acting like a manager or a director, the part of you that's trying to control everything, it just starts to fade into the background. You're still seeing, you're still aware, but it doesn't feel like it's being directed by some central eye anymore. And when that ego-driven observer fades away, you start seeing things in a whole new light. You realize the world doesn't need your help. The clouds, the shadows, the geometry of these trees, they don't need your artistic direction. They're already arranging themselves in a way that's way more profound than anything you could ever impose on them. And so, you wait. In a culture that is totally obsessed with action and productivity and control, the simple act of waiting becomes a radical act. It's a form of deep resistance against our own worst impulses.
And this brings us to a really important point. Waiting isn't just sitting around being bored. It is an active refusal to dominate, to impose your will, or, as the source puts it, to colonize the moment. It's about giving the scene the space it needs to become what it's meant to be without you forcing it. So, after all the waiting, after the self starts to dissolve, you finally arrive at the climax of this whole process. And it's not a moment of conquest where you finally get the shot. It's a moment of coherence. It's a moment of alignment.
So what exactly is alignment? It's that instant when the wall between you and the world just crumbles. There's no longer a subject and an object, a photographer and a landscape. Instead, it all becomes one single event, a feel phenomenon, where you and the world are in it together.
In that moment of perfect alignment, pressing the shutter doesn't feel like some big artistic choice. There's no feeling of triumph. It just feels
inevitable. It feels like the scene itself reached this point of absolute completion, and the shutter was just the natural conclusion, like a circuit finally closing.
And because it feels inevitable, not chosen, one exposure is all you need. To take more would just be commentary. It would be your ego rushing back in, second-guessing, trying to improve things, trying to take back control. The event happened. One marker is enough.
And after this event is over, what are you left with? It's not a trophy. It's more like a residue. The feeling that sticks with you isn't excitement, but a deep, profound silence. The silence of non-interference.
So this means we have to completely redefine what that image on your camera actually is. It is not a prize that you've won. It's not proof that you conquered a scene. It is simply a residue, a fossil trace of that brief, incredible moment when the illusion of you being separate from the world just loosened its grip.
This all leads us to the central, and I think beautiful paradox of this whole philosophy. To truly make a photograph, you have to fundamentally stop. But what exactly are you stopping?
Well, you're stopping that constant internal chatter, the voice that's always judging and narrating everything. You're stopping that compulsive need to fix or improve the scene to match what you think it should be. And most importantly, you are stopping your claim of ownership over the moment.
And when all that stopping is done, what's left is just the world as it is. Light, matter, and you. Not as a conqueror, but as a humble witness. And it's only in that state of really unusual humility that the true photograph can even happen.
And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The greatest photographs aren't taken through an act of conquest. They're received in a moment of profound alignment. It's a complete shift in how we see ourselves and our place in the world, all through the simple act of holding a camera. And it might just change the way you look through the lens forever.